Welcome back to Out of My Head on YouTube, where today I'm starting the intro again. How's it going, KMO?
Oh, it's going okay. 18 years ago today, I was living in Port Ludlow, Washington. And, it's 3 hours behind the East Coast, and I was still asleep in bed when my brother called. And he told me that somebody had flown planes into the World Trade Center. And I thought he was joking. And even when part of my brain realized he wasn't joking, I maintained this sort of cynical, cavalier attitude about it. Until I went to my computer and I went to the BBC website and I saw the video of the planes flying into the buildings. They hadn't collapsed yet. And there were tears running down my face, and I saw it that one time. And then I saw it the second time when I showed it to my wife. She cried. And then I made a point of never watching that footage again for like the next 5 years, even though, because I could do that because I didn't have cable TV, but if you had a cable TV, subscription, and you had CNN, they played it 24/7. Most people, most Americans saw that footage thousands and thousands of times. And it dealt a huge wound to our national psyche. It created this security state, which I know you don't remember ever not being the case, but...
I felt the effects of it, though.
Yeah. And my son was less than a year old at the time. So basically, his whole life, he's about to turn 19. He's lived his whole life in the shadow of 9/11. And for a few glorious moments after 9/11, the whole world's heart went out to the United States of America. And we just squandered that goodwill.
Yeah, we do that.
Yeah. But since then, the official story about 9/11 doesn't make a lot of sense. There's some weird coincidences, like at the exact same time that terrorists were really flying jets into big buildings, there was an exercise going on simulating such an event. And there was massive confusion in the communications, with military personnel, with pilots and stuff. Are you talking about the drill or is this real? And, 3 high-rise buildings collapsed in Manhattan that day. And the 9/11 report only mentions 2 of them.
Alex Jones says one of them, Building 6 is the name of it, I think.
7.
Building 7
Mm-hmm.
was scheduled to be demolished that day.
And a BBC reporter reported that it had collapsed before it collapsed. So...
And then there's some iffy stuff with the plane flying into the Pentagon as well.
Well, yeah. The person who started the rumor that it was a missile was Donald Rumsfeld.
I've never heard that rumor.
Oh, well, anyway.
I've seen some pictures and then people claiming it doesn't add up. And I'm like, I can't verify.
Basically, there were security cameras in various buildings pointed that way that should have captured that footage, and that footage was unrecoverable. So, I don't know. There's a bunch of stuff that doesn't add up, which is just... It is candy to the paranoid mind, and people came up with all manner of bizarre conspiracy theories. Some of them asserting that there were no planes, that they were holographic projections, that the buildings were taken down by space-based energy weapons. Some people claimed there were no buildings, that the buildings were holograms. Some people claimed that the buildings had explosives built into their foundations when they were originally built in the early 70s, because this was planned all along. And then some of the leading proponents of these various conspiracy theories went clearly insane.
Clearly.
Yeah. So
I can say with 99.999% certainty, planes went into buildings in New York City at around 10 a.m., 10:07.
I don't
remember the time either.
times
September 11th,
memory.
2001. I was barely 3 years old.
But I knew
I've seen the videos.
that
It
day
happened.
that the United States reaction to this event would be much, much, much worse than the event itself. And that was clearly borne out. And I decided I was going to leave the country. And I did. I left the country. But you know what? There is no magical land of sanity anywhere else. No. I mean, people are nuts wherever you go. So I lived in Thailand for a little while, and I lived in Australia for about 6 months, and I came back to the U.S.
Because the U.S. is awesome.
It's got a lot going for it, and I don't think we'll have time to really talk about it in this video, but I think going forward, the U.S. is going to be in a pretty good position in a period of global instability.
To be fair, the United States has been in a pretty good position since like the inventions of cars and the Industrial Revolution, where we started doing a bunch of stuff, and then with the internet and us being like the first part of the first group to lay down the infrastructure for this type of stuff.
And being the only industrial economy still intact at the end of World War II.
A lot of things are going for the USA. Also, it's really hard to attack us because we're on the other side of the world from all of our enemies.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Which doesn't work well if some people hijack some planes
But the thing is,
and do some things.
if you'll forgive the vulgar expression, Al-Qaeda shot their wad with that. I mean, there was no follow-up. And
That's
the
not
U.S.
vulgar, though.
The U.S. shut down all air traffic for many, many days, leaving people stranded, basically doing billions of dollars in economic damage to the economy for fear of, the second wave of attacks. There was no second wave.
There could have been.
There could have been, but, there was plenty of intelligence indicating that Al-Qaeda was a threat, that they were planning a maneuver like this, and really, if the people who understood the situation had been listened to, it might have been avoided, although, the folks at Project for a New American Century wanted an event like this. They were laying plans to take advantage of an event like this.
Let's clarify. It is confirmed 100% they had a plan to take advantage of an event like this. Saying they wanted one is not necessarily verifiable.
No, it is verifiable.
I'm
Using their own words, it's verifiable.
I know they had a plan. Did they say,
Yes.
I want someone to blow stuff up in America so we can start a war?
Yes, they said we need a catalyzing event in order to put our plan in motion. And just a couple years later, along comes the catalyzing event. I'm not here to propagate a conspiracy theory. I think that is useless.
Yeah.
I'm just saying that everything that we could have done wrong, we did wrong in response to this event.
We didn't start a nuclear holocaust.
True. Okay.
The Middle East is not a parking lot. We only bombed some of the wrong people.
Nobody wanted to start a nuclear war over this, though.
We could have, though. If there was ever a time in history to get Americans behind a nuclear holocaust, there was World War II, until we saw the damage a nuke can do. Then we were like, the peak of the Cold War, and 9/11. That is probably, in my lifetime, it is definitely the most pro-war America has ever been. If you're getting all 50 states behind any sort of military maneuver, it's nearly impossible. Once you attack us on our own turf, we tend to fight back.
But even before 9/11, the folks at the Project for a New American Century, who, for simplicity's sake, we'll just call the neocons,
Yes.
wanted to invade Iraq.
Yes.
Iraq had nothing to do with 9/11.
Yeah.
So
Well,
clearly Al-Qaeda was behind it. Al-Qaeda had training camps in Afghanistan, so there was some justification for invading Afghanistan, but really, nobody wants to invade Afghanistan. There's nothing to be gained. And the neocons really, really wanted to invade Iraq. So
because Iraq has oil.
there's a lot of things going on with Iraq.
And it's also right. I don't remember where it is. Is it near a port?
Is it what?
Near a port?
Near
Near
a
a
port?
waterway?
Yeah, I mean, it's in the Persian Gulf.
Yeah, and it's like, it borders Iran as well.
It does border Iran.
Does it separate part of Iran from the Persian Gulf?
I don't think so.
I need to look at a map before I can come up with theories about Middle East geography. Is not my specialty, KMO.
The big players there are Saudi Arabia and Iran. And I'm reading a book right now which says there's a war coming between those two countries.
Ooh, that sounds like fun.
Yeah. I had a friend.
'Cause I don't like either one of them.
I had a friend who, right after 9/11, his proposed solution was that the United States should use a neutron bomb, which is a bomb that just irradiates an area, doesn't really have much of a blast. And we should use it to kill everybody in and around Riyadh, Saudi Arabia, and Mecca, Saudi Arabia. And then basically invade and hold that region hostage in perpetuity. This sounds like madness, but now...
I mean,
I
it's
know.
an effective strategy. The question is the morality of that.
Yeah.
Thumbs down from me. I'm not for attacking innocents, which we do way too much already.
Yeah. But the one part of that plan that makes sense is that was basically an attack on the United States by lunatics from Saudi Arabia.
They were involved in some sort of group. It wasn't just like, it wasn't lone wolf lunatics hijacking planes. There was.
I didn't say lone wolf.
You said.
I said a group of lunatics.
I don't know. I don't know.
Sunni Islam
anyways.
and Wahhabism in particular breeds lunatics.
Yeah, it's a big
Sociopathic.
group, is what I'm getting
Yeah.
at. It's a big group, and it was at least partially planned.
If there was a nation state that was responsible for that attack, it was Saudi Arabia. And if there's a nation state that we should have retaliated against, it was Saudi Arabia.
Yeah. Yes, the Al Qaeda was mostly, the Osama bin Laden, all the people that were in charge were Saudi Arabian.
Mm-hmm.
At least it's what I get told today in the 2019 eras.
It
Who
is
knows
true.
what's true?
Basically, Saudi Arabia it was a family that subscribed to a really brutal, restrictive, backwards variation of Islam. And they just happened to be the ones that the British were dealing with at the end of World War II. And the British basically drew up the maps of the Middle East without really paying a whole lot of attention as to who lived where. Just, for convenience sake, they drew these long straight lines through the desert and said, this is Saudi Arabia, this is Iraq, this is Yemen. And it doesn't make sense the way the countries are carved up. But you have all this money, all this oil money in Saudi Arabia, and the House of Saud, the Saudi royal family, they just want to kick back and live their playboy lifestyle. But the brand of Islam that they officially support breeds young sociopaths who want to go and fight for the cause and kill people. And so Saudi Arabia has found it convenient for decades to send their young psychopaths out to wherever to go fight whatever battle. And they sent them off to Afghanistan to fight the Soviets. And then the Soviets pulled out of Afghanistan. And they needed somebody else to fight. It wasn't, the House of Saud certainly did not want their young psychopaths to go and attack the United States.
But the young psychopaths they breed are willing to fight anyone who isn't them.
Pretty much.
Their specific breed of Islam.
The people they hate the most are the Shia Muslims, followed by the Jews.
Yeah, they really don't like them. Any of the non-Sunni, did you say?
They even hate Sunnis.
Okay, what's their name again?
They go by a few different names, but Wahhabism or Salafism.
Anyways, they hate anyone who isn't that.
It is a super extremist brand of Sunni Islam. And the people they hate the most are the Shias.
Yeah. Yes, that's true. Okay, so before we get too much into that subject, I just had one question
Mm-hmm.
that I didn't know the answer to because they didn't really teach me about 9/11 in school because obvious reasons, like, oh, you jumped out of school when you were 12. Of course they didn't teach you were a child. Anyway, so the story is the two planes were hijacked by men with AKs?
Box knives.
How do you take over a plane with a box knife?
You take over a plane with, 10 box knives. You basically extend them. You go to the pilot. You cut his throat. You throw his body, out of the cabin. The people in first class see the blood dripping out of the guy's neck. And then you've got, people just in the aisle and the rest of the plane saying, if you stand up, I'm going to cut you.
How many people were taking over a plane? Was it
There
only
was-
like 2 people? Okay, I don't know anything. Please explain this because I clearly
There were
don't
supposed
know.
to be 20 hijackers, 5 on each plane. Yes, there were 4 planes.
And one didn't make it.
Right, but one guy didn't make it. So there were 19 hijackers. And on one plane, it seems that the passengers did fight back, but the pilot was already dead. So that plane went down.
But it didn't hit anything else.
Right.
That's the important part. Anyways, that's why I think men should carry knives everywhere they go. How do you take out a bad guy with a knife? A good guy with a knife. I don't know anymore what we're talking about. Anyways, yeah, project for a new American century. I don't like them. Bunch of neocon warmongers doing neocon warmonger things. They like, hey, yeah, oil, Middle East presence, blah blah blah. Let's go fight. And I'm disappointed in Trump for having John Bolton as national security advisor for this long. Should have never hired him. I'm glad he's gone. He was attempting to ruin public relations all across the world because he wants to fight wars.
Yep.
Like, I'm sure Trump's whatever was, oh, we need a strong arm guy here to make these people know we ain't playing around. But he's just like, oh, no, I don't want them to stop. I want them to continue escalating so we can fight wars.
Yeah, John Bolton is definitely, American imperialist, and Trump is hey, let's do as little as we have to abroad and just focus on what's going on here at home.
Hopefully that Donald Trump will push forth a new breed of conservatism that is not warmongery.
I think we can leave it
Most
there.
of us want that. Let's go.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks for watching. I'm tired. Good night.